Hi, everyone. Welcome to Jack's Career Chats, a series where we highlight the diversity of jobs, skills, and opportunities in the world of biomedical research. Today, we're exploring the field of bioinformatics. This is where biology and data science combine into exciting possibilities for research and careers. My guest today is Martine Signon, the research data analyst in the Single Cell Technologies Division at the Jackson Laboratories campus in Farmington, Connecticut. Martine, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start at the very beginning, basically. Tell me a little bit about your path to how you got here. So you were born and raised in Haiti, right?
Yes. Born and raised in Haiti. I did most of my schooling before undergrad in Haiti. So primary school was at a Catholic school, and secondary school we moved on a little bit because my family was a bit non-traditional, so we had to move a lot, me and my sister mainly, because we're a year apart, so most of our classes were kind of like in the same ballpark when it comes to schools chunks. And I did partial university in Haiti for 4 years before I came to the United States. Yes, so I did my I did 2 years of community college. I did 2.5 years at Smith College to finish undergrad, and right now I'm working at Jackson Laboratory as a data analyst.
Did you always like science growing up? Was science your thing?
Yes. My sister and we got in a lot of trouble because of our science experiments. So during summer vacations, when we'd go to my grandmother, we had a makeshift laboratory under the staircase, and there was a door in there. So none of the adults really knew what was going on, but we had an alcohol burner, we had little pots we found in the kitchen that we would go on missions, MacGyvering around the house, like we're gonna get vitamins, makeups from the other cousins, anything we find, hair products. We beginning of the day, we're like, okay, we're gonna make a hair product that's gonna make our hair grow so long, so fast that it's gonna blow everybody's mind. Let's get to it. We need vitamins, we need pomades, we need all the stuff. So we would go in other people's rooms. Yes, other people's rooms, taking their potions and bringing it downstairs, and we're like, lighting up the alcohol burner, getting to it, and you're like, how's it going, doctor? Like, yes, we're gonna get this experiment going, and then our hair is gonna grow. And like, yes. So it was a lot of fun. And even in primary school, I had a lot of trouble when it comes to memorizing for science or history. And our tactic was, and my sister, before she even got to my grade, she knew all the lessons pretty much, because I had to find techniques around learning or memorizing, which is making little songs. So I would make songs out of all the lessons that I couldn't remember, and she would be singing with me. And then by the time she got to the grade, and she's like, oh my God, it's the song we learned.
But it's helpful, right? There are so many terms and things that you have to memorize. So if there's a catchy way to do it.
Yes. So school was the safe space for us, for sure, even though growing up, because my dad was a single parent for most of it, it was little adult supervision, but since school was our safe space, it was pretty easy for us to keep up with everybody and not fall behind when it comes to schooling. So yes, most of even high school, my biology classes were the funnest time I had. I enjoyed math, but math did not like me back, but I had fun with it. So it was a lot of fun. I always into science. University, I got into med school. My sister went to linguistics and law. And back in Haiti, you can only do one track. Once you get out of high school, you have to either choose if you're going to go into law, medicine, nursing, engineering. Once you choose it, that's it, you're locked in. You can't move around. So I went to do 4 years at the medical school, the University of Notre Dame d'Haïti, it's called. It's still going on. And it was a lot of fun. My dad is an architect, so when I got out of high school, I still took the test for engineering school. And I was so mad that I couldn't go that day because it's a volatile country. And the day of the test, there was a lot of unrest. So the next day was a medical school test. So I went and I took it, I passed, and I'm like, next year I'm going to engineering. I love architecture. And then
So
more stuff happened.
1 second. So basically, so at high school, you have to take exams for the different college tracks that you have.
Yes.
So there's no like liberal arts college, take whatever
Nope.
classes you want, right? So there's
Nope.
like engineering college, the medical college, and like
Yes.
that's it. So you were saying that you have to take an exam to place into those colleges? Is that
Yes.
how it is?
Yes.
And then you just could not take the engineering exam that day because of the unrest. So then if you can't take the exam, you can't go to that school that whole year.
That whole year. You have to wait for next year when they have the entrance exam and take it.
That must have been really difficult for you. It's devastating if that's what you wanted.
Yes, it was devastating to a point where my first year at the medical college, I tried my best. Like, I barely studied, but since I had all this bio and anatomy knowledge in my head, I'm like, next test I'll just whatever. If I don't pass, it's fine. I'm going to the engineering college next year anyway. And I started enjoying it. The more I paid attention. I'm like, oh, this is so fun. Like, my first genetics class, the professor I had looked like, the stereotypical scientist on TV with the hair and the lab coat. And I'm like, oh my God, this is fun. So I had a lot of fun. And at the end of it, the first year, there was a lot of heartache because it's really hard to pass those classes. So our class started with over 100 students. And the next class, we lost at least 20 people. So, but I mean, I still made it. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm enjoying this too much.
So that was unexpected, it sounds like. You wanted engineering, but you couldn't go into that college. So you're like, okay, whatever, I guess I'll do this medical school. And you started loving it.
Yes. I loved every minute of it. It was really hard because we had to be there from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. It was really, really hard. Wow. But I had a lot of fun. So our lab classes, microscopy, the anatomy class, I enjoyed every minute of it. 4 years of that before I came to the United States in 2008, because the country was going from worse to worse, and now it's even worse, if that's even a word. And my dad was traveling between the United States and Haiti a lot at that point, and he already made paperwork for us to come to the United States. And by 2008, all of it was finalized, and we had to take a hard decision. Are we going to stay in the US or stay in Haiti, where the economic situation was pretty bad, insecurity was pretty bad. Even in my class, we had a couple of people who were kidnapped, and people were freaking out. All the professors were leaving. Most of the professors were leaving at the time. So when I got to the US and we weighed the options of what can we do with the little we have when it comes to education, we stuck with it. Me and my sister were like, okay, we're going to stay here and we're going to find a way around it with the little economic possibilities that we have.
It sounds so difficult. I mean, I can't even express like how difficult that must have been. I mean, you probably can't even express. But it sounds like you got through it together. It sounds like it was a family decision to come, a family decision to continue your education and to stick it out.
Yes. As imperfect as it was, we figured a way around it, because the place where we landed when we came to the United States wasn't the best place. So again, me and my sister, we had to decide, because when we got there, the first impression we got was, you got to get a job immediately and start, because we have bills to pay and we have mortgage to pay. And from my heart and my sister's heart, we were like, we are science people. We can't just give up on that. So we made the decision. We met up with one of my sister's friend. At the time, he came from Africa, from Mali at that point. And it's like, there's a community college, you guys can go and talk to somebody. And we went in and talked to somebody. But the person we talked to was from the math department there, and he was also from Haiti. And we told him the whole story of how we got there and how we have zero money. What can he do for us when it comes to our track? And, what can the United States offer us? And he's like, okay, first off, you guys need to get English under your belt for college purposes, take the test for placement, and then get into the community college for classes. And the way you can do classes for free is gonna require a lot of work. It's the honors college. You have to keep a 3.5 GPA, but they will pay for your tuition and give you a stipend for living expenses. And we're like, yes, we're on board, because we have no other option at this point. We had a full-time job where I was working as a waitress, my sister as well. And we needed the extra help to just pay for our education. And we had to move out of the place where, the story wasn't to get a good education. The story was start working immediately, because this is the way it is in the US. It can be that way, but it doesn't have to be, right? I understand why they had that way of thinking, but there's a way to get around it. So we decided to move out, get full-time jobs, and then as soon as we got out of the English programs and passing the test, the grammars, the speech, and all that, I took an accent reduction class, and a lot of people are saying, maybe that's why your accent is not too thick. And I'm like, I don't know. But that's a sign that, some of those English classes for academic purposes, depending on how you take them, you can find really interesting classes there. That's for whoever needs to hear this message.
I think it's really important. There are so many people that, are immigrants, they come from another country, and that can be a barrier, if not just for yourself. You feel self-conscious. Is that right? You feel different, and you feel like you're not quite up to par.
Yes. And if there's anything else I can say about that class, we spent most of the time learning Mary Had a Little Lamb and trying to say them, like technically kind of like going to kindergarten and learning how to enunciate words. So if somebody wants to DIY this, learn a lot of songs and how the words are said.
Children's songs is a good place to start.
Yeah. So when we were done with the English classes, we went on to the honors college. And of course, it was studying day and night between working. And I just to mention this, I have sickle cell disease. When I came to the United States, I did not understand, because back home, we only have 2 tests a year for high school, university, it doesn't matter. So it didn't affect my learning that much until I got to the United States, where you have every week you have a test, a quiz, and it's very easy for me to be sick, like without any signs beforehand, and I miss a test. And I powered through when I was at the community college, but when I got to move forward to Smith College, where I did the last 2 years of my undergrad, I had to go to the disability services. And facing that sickle cell was a disability for me was a really hard situation. But what I learned from that experience is ask for help when you think you need it. Even if you think it's no big deal, other people have it worse, ask for help. Even if you think, one day I'm gonna miss notes because I can't do this, or, I'm taking certain medication and it's preventing me from doing this other thing, ask for help. It doesn't matter how small you think it is. So yes, after we did the honors college, I did a bunch of internships with the University of Miami. I started working on a project with Dr. Leong. She was doing Parkinson's disease research, Alzheimer's disease research, and I learned a lot from her when it comes to discipline and how to keep copious notes. When it comes to lab notes, it was a really, really nice experience, and that solidified for me. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do this research track.
Was that your first exposure to research?
Per se, yes.
Aside from the staircase and the lab with your sister.
Right, yes. I mean, I had my organic chemistry lab classes from med school back in Haiti already, but it wasn't as independent, right? You had to follow a specific thing. There wasn't, go ahead and do this on your own, find the protocols and all that stuff.
I think that's a really important point,
yes.
like the lab research that you do in class, either in high school or in undergrad, is very structured. You
yes.
have a set, outcome that you're looking for, because it's a lesson, and there has to be something that, you're going to get the result for. But in the
yes.
real world, I mean, that's very similar to the real world, but in actuality, you're just making a hypothesis. You're observing.
Yes.
You don't really know what's going to happen.
Yes. And you have to be okay with things not going the way you expected them to, and write it down, because it's one path that okay, I'm not going to go down that path again. It's not a failure. It's something to say, this is not an appropriate path, take a different one. And not take it personally.
And how was that? How was
yes.
dealing with that? Like realizing that you can't take it personally, that's just kind of the nature of research. How was that for you?
I think it was fine for me. And I don't know if I'm naturally a curious person. And I think me understanding that an RNA molecule has nothing against me, it just doesn't like to be exposed to heat. Right? Yeah.
It's like obeying the laws of nature, you just
yes.
have to play by their rules and not
yes.
not
yes.
you.
Yes. Yeah. And take it as, conclusion. Do not leave those tubes in higher than 4 degrees Celsius, and you'll be fine. So yeah, it wasn't too hard for me to adjust. I think I was having a lot of fun with the successes and the failures, because again, learning what works and what doesn't work is what makes me tick. So
also, I mean, you sound like a very resilient person, and also because of your life, the hardship that you've gone through in your early days, and then coming to the US and having to learn English and uprooting your life and starting over with your education, all these things, right, are very difficult to do, but you bounced back. You were very resilient and driven. And I think those qualities in life
yes,
play so well for science and research, because you do have to keep going. You do have to ask more questions. You do have to be driven and focused.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that is true. I'm going to agree with that. Yes. I never thought about it that way, but yeah, it does give you perspective. It put things in perspective. So yes.
And what did you do after the research experience?
After the research experience, my internship ended, and I was very open with my mentor at the time, Dr. Leong, and she offered me a part-time job as a research assistant after I ended, between me finishing the program and transferring to Smith College. So that spring and summer, it was very fun. I still had to keep my full-time job, of course, because you have to pay rent and food. But her helping us was really, 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 I will always remember that, that she offered, even because she didn't have to do that. Yes, and then graduation happened. We had a lot of fun. My dad came, and it was difficult, but we had to just leave Miami and move to a different state. And he was kind of scared. He's like, oh my God, you don't know anybody. I'm like, well, we're in Miami. I know their family, 3-mile radius, but we still had to do this by ourselves. So I think we can move far and it will be fine. So we moved to Massachusetts, and it was immediate culture shock. If anybody knows anything about South Miami or Dade County, compared to Northampton, Massachusetts, and you will understand.
And
But
you moved with your sister?
yes, we both moved. We both got accepted to Smith College, and they have a program there. Smith College and Mount Holyoke College have programs for students who are over the age of 24. 24 and up, you can apply for this program, and they cover tuition, but they do not cover room and board. So we had to go for that decision because of economic purposes. Even though we had partial tuition at University of Miami, it was going to be so much money that we couldn't do it. So, which is the other reason why we decided to move to Massachusetts, because not only they had a program purposefully for students who were not traditional age. I'm going to put air quotes around traditional age because I don't think that there is such a thing. But it really helps a lot of people, and I didn't know about it until somebody brought it up. I think somebody from Mount Holyoke came to visit the community college, and we were telling her that all the young kids in our cohort are looking at all these schools, and we are older in age. And she's like, well, we have programs for that, just apply for them and see how it goes. And we applied, we both got in, and when we got to campus, it was adjusting with having several people in the same house and adjusting to the classes. And if anybody's thinking about choosing a woman college, I would say, and if you're a woman or a person who identifies as a woman, I would say go for it.
So
at first, I did not understand.
Female college? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
At first, I did not understand the excitement from all the other students that were getting in with us in the same cohort with us. And as the classes went on, it started to be clear. If you don't like the big college setting, small colleges and a women's college, if you're somebody who identify as a woman, and I think it's a great experience. I did not understand how important it was until I started seeing how I changed when it comes to thinking of my limitations. It's kind of like they evaporated somehow, and it's like limitations I didn't know were there that I was putting on myself. And you realize that just the setting and the idea of there's nobody in this room that's gonna think you're thinking this. Nobody's saying this to you. That's gonna think, oh, you're a woman, you can't be good at this, or you're a woman, computer science is not for you, or you're a woman, da 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 da, and all these fields that are male dominated shouldn't be yours. But there's this room full of like 100 of us that are very passionate about it, overzealous, scary at some point sometimes, because you're like, oh, I've been passionate about this since I was 2 years old. You're like, oh yes, I'm in the right place. It can feel intimidating sometimes because you feel like, okay, I can take over the world then as a woman. Which can put you in a bubble. I understand that, but I think it's a good experience to have because it points out all the limitations you were putting on yourself that do not exist, really. They might exist when you interact with other people, but you're reminded that they're not real, right? In that
so
setting.
Powerful. Yeah, that you're saying that your environment really can shape so much of how you think, even just about yourself and your own ability. Yes. Because you're, surrounded by females that are underrepresented in certain paths, like in science and in computer science, that empowered you to think that you can do it. You didn't see that, you don't see any negatives there.
Yes. And my time at Smith College, I went full on molecular biology. And the first time when they were doing the open house, I made a beeline for the molecular biology side. I talked to the professors. I found who I needed to find. I'm like, I want to start research as soon as possible. How do I do that? And, you know, I talked to the right people, Dr. Williams, Dr. Adams. They were both in the molecular biology department at the time. I talked to both of them, and we started research. Me and my sister both started research the next summer when we got to Smith. And it was fun. We most of my classes in my last year, senior year, most of my credits were my independent research. So Dr. Williams does research when it comes to neglected tropical diseases. And these are conditions that I see back home. And I didn't, you know, I couldn't understand. I'm like, you're doing elephantiasis, which in my hometown was a big thing. I used to see a lot of merchants and people at the market have giant limbs. And I didn't understand why. People would say, oh, it's because they work in the field and something happened. But then when I got to his lab, that's mostly what he does. And understanding the science behind it, it all started to make sense. Because my hometown is mosquito hometown. And it's a parasite that's transmitted through mosquito bites. And it gets to the lymph nodes, and then the limbs start swelling up, and that's how you get elephantiasis. So we started immediately working on that, and it was a lot of fun. And then after that summer research, I chose to do the honors track, where I had my independent research following the elephantiasis nematode study. And when I got to the end of that research and getting all my data and doing all the extractions I needed to do, then the topic of data analysis came up. The idea was to get somebody from the computer science department to another student to do a project alongside me to analyze my data. And unfortunately, the student had some family situation going on, and she had to leave in the middle of a semester. And I had to step up. When I went to my advisor, I told him, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. How bad can it be? Me not knowing anything. When I say not knowing anything, we owned our first laptop when I came to the United States, I was 22 when I owned my first computer. Okay, so I have no idea what I'm getting myself into. And he's like, okay, go ahead, try it. And I'm like, okay. So I started reading papers, and then I would make note of the name of the person that developed whatever tool it is for alignment. And I think the first person I contacted was Brian Haas from the Broad Institute. And I would email this person. Right now, I looked at my emails back, and I'm like, this person had a lot of patience, because it was questions like, it took me 3 months just to install an alignment program. And it was a lot of back and forth. And then the puzzling side of bioinformatics started to tick another box for me, because I've always been into puzzles. I've always been into tedious things, like string art was the thing I did all, like, my primary and secondary school. I have notebooks and notebooks of string art. Oh, okay. So I wish I had a notebook with me of a design I have. I'm looking to see. No, I don't have a design. So it's technically you have a grid. You can either create a grid or use grid paper, and you connect lines, and with the lines you create curves.
Oh,
yes.
I have seen this.
Yes.
Awesome. So cool. I never knew what it's called, but now I can understand, yes, because it's literally string. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I got it.
Yes. Side project, my calculus class, I think there's a connection between that and limits. And I tried to integrate string art with my last math project. It didn't go well, but my professor was like, A for effort. I mean, I like that. So yes. So when I started putting my little pipeline together, because most of those nematodes don't have a reference sequence, you have to go off of some other nematode that's close to the one we were studying. And aligning to that sequence, you miss a lot of information. So then the topic of you're gonna have to do de novo alignment. And I didn't know how bad into computer science I was getting at this point. But I'm like, yes, of course, de novo assembly. You know, like I have no idea where I start. Start reading a paper, find somebody, let's ask them questions, knock some doors down and ask questions. So
You really weren't afraid to ask questions. You just
yes.
would read the literature, find the researcher, and you would just ask a stranger about their work.
Yes, yes. And that's the other part I'm saying. Like, you don't, those were, I mean, I'm thinking back when, even when I was in the honors college, the first 2 years at community college, I don't think I was that bold to just go ahead to anybody and then talk to them, right? But seeing all these women around me just going, "Boop, boop, boop, I'm going to talk to this person. I'm going to talk to the highest person I can find. And I'm going to do this and that and the other thing." I'm like, why not? I can do it too. So I think it removed that invisible or non-existent barrier that I put on myself to say, well, there's no way. They're gonna think I'm stupid and they're gonna think I'm, not smart enough.
Because you were surrounded by people that were doing what you wanted to do, so it made you and you look like them. You think you seem like them, right? They're like
Yes.
people, so it made
Yes.
you think that you could do it too.
Yes. So when you hear the phrase representation matters, it makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. So yes, so the next step, when I couldn't really figure out a appropriate pipeline for the de novo assembly, because there was a lot of programs to stitch together, I started using a online platform called Galaxy. And if you've done any type of data analysis in bioinformatics realm, you've heard of it. And I started playing with the program and finding out what's underneath the pipeline there on Galaxy. And then the opportunity to go to a conference popped up. And that's where I'm gonna have a reality check at that point. So I went to my advisor. I'm like, I'm going to the conference for Galaxy because all these people are going to meet together. Maybe somebody would help me with my de novo assembly problem. And I just signed up for it and I went. And that's when I realized how male dominated bioinformatics is. And I was the only Black person there. And at first it was jarring the first day there when we were supposed to meet, but I don't know, I just put in that headspace that it doesn't matter, they're just people, it's gonna be fine, and keep your head up, don't think about it twice, just act normal. Whatever that means. So yeah, I went ahead, and I think what kind of made me more comfortable, there was a lot of people from around the world, and there was a group of French developers at one table. I'm like, oh my God, some people I can relate to in some way. So I went right over to them and I started speaking. I'm like, oh my God, somebody that speaks French, that's something. So I started talking to them and I asked them information about, what the tools they are developing, and they were more than happy. People love talking about their work. And that's the other thing. When you stop yourself saying, oh my God, I'm gonna annoy this person. I haven't met somebody in the sciences that does not love talking about their work. It doesn't matter how low you start, and they will be glad to talk to you about it. So I made some connections there. They pointed me towards a few more programs to use. And I sat there through most of the conference not knowing what was happening. But the few parts where I understood, I'm like, I understand that. I think that's a win. And I understood how much I needed to learn. It put in perspective to me how much I needed to learn and how high the entry level was for bioinformatics. But for some reason, it didn't scare me, because I'm like, I got into it without being scared. I think we're gonna stay not scared and learn what we need to learn to get through it, because I'm excited about my data and I want to show what I've done so far. So it's just what we need to do.
So that knowledge
And
gap wasn't scary. I mean, maybe a little bit, but it was
yes,
more like motivating that you want to,
yes,
shorten that gap. You want to learn what you need to
yes,
learn.
yes, because what happens at these conferences also, you find that you're probably, for me, I felt like I was probably the person that knew the least about computational biology, but I also found people that even if they were in the molecular biology realm, they were just getting into computational biology. So their questions kind of made sense to me. So I'm like, okay, if they can transition this knowledge into computational biology, I can find a way myself to put myself in there and then transition as well.
So
To
again,
help me.
another instance where having like peers and seeing that modeled for you helps
Yes.
you think that like, okay, well, if they can do it, I can do it too.
Yes, yes, and see what angle they take to get to that part too. So the moment I got back to campus, I told my advisor, I'm like, I need to take a computational class. They're like, well, there's no such thing. I'm like, okay, the closest thing we have is the computer science department, and I have to take Comp Sci 101 and then go from there, but they start with C programming, but I don't really need that. I need more data science where I can understand how to collate big data without going too much into computer science.
So this
So
was your senior year of college, and you were starting to think about like 101 classes, starting over in a
yes,
new field.
yes, yes.
That had
So
to be really hard because senior year, everyone's eye on the prize of graduation. They want to get out, they want to be done, and you're like, give me more.
yes, pretty much. And I'm, at that point we're counting because for the program I was in, we have a cap on how many credits we can take total before graduation. And I'm counting credits. I'm like, okay, I need space. I need space for one more thing. And I was referred to somebody that was doing data science for the people on the economic track, right? I don't remember. Yes. So they do data science for, let's say, the insurance companies. They use data from that, or
Sure,
other data sets.
data science is everywhere, right? Anything can
Right.
that generates data, you can crunch the numbers and analyze it. And
Right.
but it's, I guess, unique for bioscience, right? So the things that are used are similar principles, but the tools and what you need to know are very different for
Very
biomedical
different.
research.
Yes. Yes. So at that point, I realized I needed to think in data science way, but necessarily the class I was gonna take wasn't gonna help me necessarily with my biological questions, but I could use my biological question to learn appropriately in the class. So thinking back with my project, whatever is happening in the class, how do I fit that to my project?
So you always had
So
a project in the back of your head, even though the class
yes,
was about something different. You tried to
yes,
make the connection yourself.
yes. So I had to talk to somebody, the professor that was Dr. Ben Baumer. He's from a sports background. So baseball is all he talks. I know nothing about baseball. So every time he would bring up a baseball reference, I'm like, I'm completely lost. Can we talk DNA, please? But no. But I went to his class the first day he was introducing it, and he was, saying all these machine learning and all that stuff. And I'm like, I'm so screwed. This is not going to happen. I'm not going to learn all of this. So after the first class, I went straight to his office hour, and I'm like, okay, this is the story. Biology background, nothing about computers. What can you do for me? And he's like, well, do you love learning new things? I'm like, yes. It's gonna be hard. I'm like, no problem. Well, do you have any type of comp sci knowledge? I I have zero comp sci knowledge. It was like, okay, you're gonna have to work double hard. But if you like learning new things, I would suggest you stay in the class. You might not get an A, and I'm like, oh my God, this might be a deal breaker, but because not having an A, oh my God, the world is gonna end. But if you like learning new things, just stick around. So from the get-go, I knew it was gonna be hard. I used every single office hour that he had. Every single time I did the background, like when people were in the class, knowing already, you know, how to write a loop or how to write code in R. I was sitting there, so what is a loop? I have no idea. So more homework for me. But at the same time, because of being the curiosity and having my project in the back of my mind, I'm like, I can't give up now. I need to learn this thing so I can get to the same level. So, and there were three other students in the class that were doing the exact same thing from different departments. They're like, we have no background, we are in the class, and we need to pass.
So you were completely alone.
Yes. So we found each other. The way we found each other is when we had our group project and everybody knew each other from computer science. And he's like, okay, groups of 5, everybody just scattered to each other. And then the 4 of us were sitting at the end of the class like, oh, we are a group, I guess.
Classes, right?
Yes. So we found each other literally. So then we made our little group. So we knew we had to work double hard. So one person was economics background. She brought in whatever stats she has. One person was from sports background. She brought in whatever knowledge she had. I came from the biology background, and somebody was from the psychology department. So all these different points of view kind of helped us with our project, because we did our project for data science on why would somebody report a crime? In what setting would somebody report a crime? So we used the FBI database and then find out, you know, if the thing they lost was over a certain amount of money, they would report it as being stolen. Or if the crime was by a stranger and not by family, they were more likely to report it. So it was a learning experience, learning how to put data together and learning how to code together. But we went through it. I mean, I got a B. I'm not gonna cry now. I cried then, but it was a lot of fun. And then the more I did it, I realized I'm having a lot of fun with this. And also in the back of my mind, with my disability, research was becoming, because I was in the lab every day, summer, spring, winter. And when I would get sick, that was the first thing in my mind. Oh my God, if I had an experiment that depended on time, what would I be doing right now, right?
Because so much of the molecular biology lab work is in person. You can't do cell culture at home. You cannot run a PCR at home. You can't do these things remote.
Yes, and most of that was becoming clear to me. So sometimes I would go in the lab sick and then I would do whatever I needed to do. But I'm like, right, if I'm not there 100%, if it was something that was really sensitive, it could have gone wrong.
Sure.
And getting into the field of bioinformatics, I started reading more and more about it and then finding out what other projects are happening. And I'm like, okay, so it's kind of like having a lab, but on your computer, and you have it with you all the time. Even though I'm gonna miss, you know, scrubbing my bench and making it super pristine and making sure my pipette tips are horizontally going, you know, all that stuff, I'm gonna miss it. But I started falling more and more in love with computational biology the more I find out how vast it is and how puzzle-like it was, right?
And also how the nature really fit your lifestyle and your needs.
Yes. And at that point, I had come around to accepting that I needed help, because that was the thing I fought a lot. Even when I went to the disability services and they were giving me those papers to give my professors, if she missed a class, she's allowed to retake the exam for whatever reason, I made sure I didn't use them. That's how bad I was fighting it. Even when I was sick, there was one exam I took, I was sick, and I'm like, you have the paperwork, why aren't you using it? But I was fighting it so hard because I didn't want to accept that it was affecting me that much. My health condition was affecting me that much. But at that point, because I realized, I think, that if it was going to be a problem, I would have to give up that dream of being that scientist in the lab all day, every day, being excited, right, for new discovery and all that stuff. So it was hard for me to swallow that. But then when I find out that there's another way around it, I think it made it easier.
I think that's so powerful what you're saying, that it's not just a cool new field that you were excited by. I mean, it certainly was that. You really liked the data science and the computational, but it gave you something you thought you were losing. You know, you thought that you couldn't be a scientist because you couldn't be at the bench every day. But it turns out that science is more than just the bench. And so you had, like you said, if you have a computer and the internet connection, you have the research world at your fingertips, literally at your fingertips. And now you could still be a scientist.
Yes. And that was a big turning point for me when I started putting two and two together and realizing, yes, this could work. And I'm still excited about it. Maybe not as excited as being, tinkering with the bench stuff, but still I have access to the data, I have access to the information, and I can still ask questions, and I can still be curious about what happens. So yes, it's been a fun, difficult ride, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think that's life for a lot of people. And, we kind of gloss over the difficulties, but so many times it really is formative, and it forms us into who we are. And it certainly sounds like that for you, that despite all of the hardships, that helped you become resilient and to do the things that you're doing now. It got you to where you are.
Yes. Yeah. So yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about what your job is now?
I work with the single cell biology lab with the PI for this group is Dr. Paul Robson, and I do data analysis. So I work for the service side. So Jax has the research side and the service side for clients from UConn and other universities when we're collaborating. And I do the single cell biology service for analysis. So when a client comes in and they do single cell experiments with our lab, the first raw output that comes out, I take it and I transform it into either cell numbers, clusters to say, okay, these might be a specific cell type and this other group might be another specific cell type. And the scientists that hired us can decide if they want to go further with their experiment, or if they want to change something about the experiment, or if they want to take this information and go further down into it to do further analysis to say, okay, between these two different groups, are there subpopulations and stuff like that. So most of the service data that comes through us, when a scientist doesn't have a computational person in their group, I see that data set to give them a preliminary view as to what they have in their sample. So yeah, it takes me a little bit further. I'm gonna say it takes me a little bit further into the hardcore computer science side when it comes to either app development or program development, but it's more the I would say statistics and visualization. So those are skills I still need to hone, because I started more with the raw installing stuff, seeing behind the scenes and stuff like that. So raw data set without even seeing what information is related to each other. And now I'm in the front end where whatever it is that I give out, the client is gonna see that information. And if it doesn't make sense, we don't have an appropriate story to go off of. So it's fun. It's a different type. I would say a different type of fun. You realize how, depending on how you view a data set, you can tell a different story.
So visualization is so key, how you present something.
Yes, yes. And if you don't have the right visualization, different people can see the story differently. And it's a whole field in itself. So my data science professor, when I was at Smith, that was his passion. When it comes to visualization, it's a whole field in itself. And yeah, I'm starting to learn a little bit about it, and being part of the single cell biology lab is what's developing this skill for me. So you never stop learning when it comes to computational biology, because it is so vast. And I think that's why I'm having so much fun with it. There's nowhere you can be stuck in one thing. You can shift the lens many ways and find something that you're interested in. If you're an art person, visualization with data science is like the perfect, I've seen other people from the journalistic background play with data and how they visualize it, and it's just work of art. And yeah, it's a very fun field. There's a lot of people.
It's so interesting that you say that you can kind of put your own unique
Touch.
Personality almost into the work that you do, if you have more of an art background and more of a stats background or something, maybe you can kind of tweak it in a way that suits you.
Yes. And I mean, we have, there's somebody in our group, he's a math physics background, and the algorithm development is his thing. For him, that's the work of art, right? So it's different ways, different background you come at it, there's something for you there. So
yeah, because it's such a big field: computer science, computational biology, bioinformatics. These are all related fields, right? But kind of with your personality, your experience, you can your perspective is so valuable, and you can kind of make your own little niche field or something, your own little perspective.
Yes. So,
and also your work in single cell technologies sounds like it's kind of combining your almost your past life in the wet lab, and now your current life, your current working, responsibilities in the dry lab. So do you still feel connected to that? Do you like that?
Yes. And it's good and bad, because when I'm in the lab meetings and people are talking about what they do in the lab, and I'm like, oh my God, I miss it so much. I wish I was, because I get to hear about it. But yes, it takes me closer to the actual bench work, the actual science that's happening. So I get to hear that side of things, and it gives me a perspective as to, okay, when I'm going to analyze this data, this is how I need to approach it. This is what I need to think about. And if something doesn't make sense, I can figure out why, or I can ask questions as to what should we be seeing here, instead
of
just
the
having
appropriate context, the appropriate background to understand.
Right. Yes. Even though some of the tools that we use are not the most effective when you input that preconceived idea into them. But for me, as a person that's gonna visualize it, I need to have that background. I need to be able to know, okay, if, let's say my clustering is having two different mirroring effects, right? I need to know, okay, so there were males and females, and I'm not accounting for that. Maybe I should change a parameter so all of it can be one, because we're looking at one organism. It shouldn't be mirroring effects there. but also I need to know from the scientists, do they need to remove that effect, right? Maybe they need to see the difference between male and female, and I'm taking that out if I didn't know that information prior to that, right? So yeah, it's a cool balance between the two.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm gonna say I'm grateful that I'm so close to bench work, but I'm also grateful that my own my health situation doesn't affect the fact that I can enjoy this field. So yes. Yeah.
So what's next for Martine? You seem to be always learning and growing and wanting more. What do you see for yourself as, you know, your next, I don't know, project, job? Like, what's on the horizon for you?
To be honest, completely honest, I have no idea. Cause okay, so right now, um, I want to go back to doing more programming, because with single cell biology, because it's a new field, relatively new field, there's a lot of room for growth, or room for changes that fit more with that type of data than what we used to do, what most people were doing in the past, which was bulk RNA-seq. So there's a lot of room for growth there, and the current pipelines we're doing are modeling whatever was happening with bulk RNA-seq. So there's opportunity for me to go back down to the basics and go in the behind the scenes and help with developing other tools to help us better visualize our data set, or account for the uniqueness of single cell data.
So you're saying like your field now is kind of using something from another field, something from RNA-seq that's not necessarily this technique. So you would not want to build something that's tailored to this specific technique, this newer single cell idea.
Right. More or less. Yes. So using bulk RNA-seq, okay, so let's think about it like it's a puzzle, right? Bulk RNA-seq would be, I take a whole 300-piece puzzle and I crumble it together, and I say, I separate it by colors. So I say, oh, this group of green, there's a lot of green, and there's a little bit of red, and then there's a medium level of purple, right? But when you take single cell RNA-seq, it's like you have that same 300-piece puzzle, and you're trying to find specific features. So you would say, this little ball of green here is a tree, and this little ball of green here is a patch of grass. So you go more into, let's say, a single tile of that puzzle and seeing the features in it.
Specific details.
Right, yes. So you don't get, so when you take bulk, the huge patch of green, you can see the levels of green there. You say there's a lot of green, but you don't specifically know what the green is, right? You can make inferences for knowledge before. You say, well, we all know green can be trees or grass, right? But you don't know specifically which is tree, which is grass. Refining the tools that we use for bulk for the single cell is mainly what a lot of people are focusing on right now. So I'm thinking I will have time to focus on that, but also I've been exposed to more client exposure. I've been having more client exposure when it comes to talking about the analysis I'm doing, which has not been happening. I haven't had that before. So it's been a learning experience for me to know how to talk about what I do, right? So, because for the longest time, I was behind the scenes and doing my little thing. I'm like, okay, send it out. You know, you guys talk about it. I don't need to know. But learning how to talk about it and having feedback from people who maybe have little knowledge, or have all the bio knowledge but little computational knowledge, it helps me know when I'm analyzing what's important to bring out, right? Because me in my own little bubble, it may make sense, but somebody who's outside that bubble, it might make zero sense, or it doesn't give them the information that they need. So, and also it's kind of empowering. What I think what I've most people don't mention is that being a, a minority person in this field can feel very isolating. And I was hiding behind the fact that I don't need to interface with people, so they don't need to know who did this work, and I can be safe, versus talking to people and getting feedback and not take it as, oh, if I do get feedback, people will think I'm not good enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think being in the single cell biology group gives me the opportunity to be able to speak more, I would say more intelligently about what I do without being safe.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know if I'm making sense at this point. It, it's that feeling of, since you're alone, you have um nobody ahead of you to look to say this is what they did to succeed. You feel like every step you make is either judged harshly, even though it might not be real, or you don't give yourself room to make mistakes because you feel like if you make a mistake and you're the one ahead, somebody behind you might suffer from that.
Yeah, it's like this pioneer effect, right? If you feel
Right.
like you're the first or only, you're kind of not only having your career and your responsibilities, but you're carrying that for the people that you identify with, right?
Yes.
And that's a lot of
Yes.
responsibility that you put on yourself.
Right.
But that I can see how that would certainly make you feel vulnerable to not, messing up. And I say in air quotes because sometimes
Right.
it's just internal. You put that pressure on yourself.
Yes. Yep.
You might not actually be messing up, but you feel that pressure, right? Not to
Right.
drop the ball.
Yes. And I mean, that's the I think that's the beauty in bioinformatics, though. Even if you mess up, it's not really messing up, because it's kind of like, because the field is so new, you have room to say, okay, this, what I did here didn't work, let me go back to the drawing board because I can think of something that might work better, right? It's not like the mistake is permanent. I mean, of course, you have to, you can't send out data that's not bad. You're going to do the best that you can at the time.
Unless you delete all your files, then that's permanent.
Right. Oh my God. Yes, let's not even talk about that. But yes, it's yeah, it is a very interesting field. It gives you room to make mistakes if you allow yourself to, and learn from those mistakes. So I would say to myself, or to anybody who's thinking about it, do not be afraid to make mistakes or be afraid to experiment with computational biology, because it's a growing field, it's a vast field. There's enough room to make mistakes and experiment. It's not like, oh, I did this and I messed it up, well, I guess it's done forever. So yes.
And it sounds like there's
I'm
also room for people. I mean, we need people. We need people of color. We need women. We need, all
Yes.
everything. Any way of thinking, any experience. It sounds like it's a growing field that's ready for everyone.
Yes, it is, definitely is. The learning curve may look steep, but once you pass that learning curve, it's it's a sandbox, but technically.
Play around.
Right. Yes. You don't have to start anything from scratch. So you don't need to learn how to code in C to start data science background. You can start wherever you're comfortable with. There's a lot of programs to help, and GitHub is full of people just out there willing to put their work out there to help people start. So yeah, take it from me. I started with zero computational background, and I just typed in de novo assembly. The first program that popped up, the first paper that popped up, I read it and I contacted the person. So yeah, I would say it might look like it's daunting to say, oh, either I'm too old, or I didn't have this background, or I had no interest in math or computers or anything like that. I don't think that's the way to think about it. I think the way to think about it is, what is it that I'm doing now and I'm passionate now that can make this type of information more digestible for people with my background? And yeah, that, I think that's a good way. So if you keep in mind your own background and how you would love to see data, the entry or the learning curve doesn't look that daunting, right?
I think that's great advice. Do you have any other kind of parting words or words of advice? You've given us a lot, so it's okay.
Yes.
There's nothing that comes to mind. I think,
yes.
You know, resiliency is one, just being able to just roll with the punches and, you know, push for yourself, advocate for yourself. Another thing I heard is just opportunities. You know, you were presented with a lot of opportunities, and you could have said no, you could have passed it up. You could have said, no, that's going to be too hard, or no, I'm not going to listen to that person. But you really, you know, you sought help from those around you, and you took it.
Yes. Yes. So yeah, my parting words would be, because I think that was the message I wished I had heard, is don't be stuck in one, thinking that there's one way to do something. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. Don't be stuck thinking there's one way to do something. And if you need help, no matter how small you think what it is that you need help with is, ask for it. There's always somebody there to help you. Whether it's choosing classes, if you have an advisor and you don't think whatever it is that you're passionate about is not what they think you should be doing, weigh why they were saying it's not what they think you should be doing. And if you think that, because this has happened to us before, where somebody thought, well, you guys are not ready to take those higher level classes. It's not their place to decide if you're ready or not. If you can switch advisors, switch it. It's not a marriage. You can move on to another person that you think will take your input as valid. But yes, ask for help. No matter how alone you think you are, there's somebody else going through the same thing, and ask for help.
That's so valuable. Martine, thank you. Thank you for your honesty and for sharing your whole journey. It was very inspiring to me. I hope a lot of our viewers learn from your experiences.
Yes.
To everyone watching, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Career Chats. Don't forget to watch more interviews from our Career Chat series. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.